You want to talk about a company man? You want to talk about a political appointee? You want to talk about somehow taking a step backwards from a Pam Bondi, also with someone who's a more effective communicator of bullshit? That's what this guy's looking like. I remind you, somewhere along the way, we lost the identity of what an attorney general is within a cabinet of a presidency. The attorney general is supposed to operate independently. They don't operate independently of like being in the cabinet. They're in the cabinet. They're, I believe, a part of the people who have a vote within the cabinet to invoke something like the 25th Amendment and stuff like that. It's not like you're saying they're powerless within the cabinet. But when it comes to prosecuting people who break the law, or a better way of saying it, upholding the law, the rule of law in the United States as the top attorney in the whole government, they're not supposed to take directions from the president. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Julian Dorey podcast. I am Julian Dorey.
And I'm Joey Deef. How you doing?
That's actually a lie. His name's Darnell Thomas. He's
Darnell
got the same
Thomas.
makeup artist as Drewski, so let's just put that out there. Deef, the secret is now open.
It's out there, my real government name.
Just kidding. He is Joey Deef. But we got a good one for you today. Somehow there's still these, what I would call bombshells dropping from the Epstein Files that now 99% of the world isn't noticing because the war in Iran is happening, which kind of seems like half the point, obviously, or maybe all the point. I don't know. So we'll be going through that. I can't hear shit today, by the way, Deef, so you may need to speak up for me.
Okay.
Out there, because we just got off of a flight and my head is completely popped. I don't know why that happens sometimes. I'm sure some people out there can relate, but literally it's like an echo coming back at me just hearing my own voice.
Yeah, it's a psyop.
It's something.
They knew you were flying.
It's something. But Deef and I were down in Florida for 3 days visiting great friends, Danny Jones and Matt Cox. So Matt was actually the first guy I ever personally flew in for a podcast for episode 96 back in March 2022. And then Danny Jones obviously is one of my closest friends who's got a great podcast called Danny Jones Podcast. I had been on that a couple times with Jim DiOrio and Andy Bustamante and him when we did collabs twice in 2022 and 2023. Hadn't been on there myself since March 2022. I think he put the episode out, though, in April 2022. So it was nice to sit down with Danny. We will have him up here probably sometime this summer. We've been trying to put that together forever. But I got to tell you, Deef, that fucking warehouse that Danny built,
dude,
that shed mansion,
fantasy factory.
Oh my God! I mean, the AC bill in there's got to be like $8,000 a month. It's insane. I mean, you know, people come in here. My bedroom's right there, and the studio's right here. We do have a couch. Danny Jones has like a monstrosity. It's like a Scarface lair. He's got bars. He's got home theaters. He's got private bathrooms with coded doors, a full-built gym, a skate park, a garage for cars, a fucking sauna. What else is it? I'm missing.
You never have
office
to leave.
space, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. But great time down there in the Tampa area. Love that whole spot minus the Scientology and Clearwater. Still a great spot, Clearwater, minus the Scientology, but Madeira Beach, St. Pete, the whole area. Love it. So it's good to be on those shows. Those will be coming out over the next couple weeks, but let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
You ready to go? So I have the first one right there. Our dear friend, dear friend, Kathy Rumler, the lawyer for the Obama administration back when Obama was in office, the Obama fixer, we've discussed. If you remember, we went through her very strange 2015 email thread with Jeffrey Epstein a couple weeks ago, where they're going back and forth on things that involved potential high-level White House meetings, where Jeffrey's advising her. And then, what was the other thing they were talking about in there again, Deef, as it pertained to Epstein? No,
it had to do with his wife, or no, that was with
that was with Peggy Siegel, the baby
Siegel.
mama thing. See, there's so
much that I just
remember what it was. But the whole thing was, that's what it was. They were talking about, it was another whoops reference where they're going through a buddy of another guy who had been convicted for the second time, and Kathy Rumler this is where it's going to tie into what we're going to talk about right now. Kathy Rumler, through the way they were talking there, was basically admitting her knowledge of what Jeffrey's predilections, disgusting predilections were. And now we have it in insane black and white with the latest dig, courtesy of my friend Sayer G, who found this on Twitter. Sayer, as I've said on recent shows, has been putting out amazing threads of deep dive research, breaking down different email threads within the Epstein Files. He's been doing it since they came out. They continue to keep coming like fire. So we're trying to get Sayer on the show, get him up here to do it. I hope to do that sometime soon. But this one, Deef, do we have it up? Hey guys, 3 quick things. Number 1, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's a huge, huge help. Number 2, if you'd like to join my Patreon for early uncensored releases of the full episodes, you can join via the link in my description or in the pinned comment below. And number 3, if you'd like to join my clipping community for a chance to make content from the show and make money, you can join via the Discord link in my description below.
Yeah.
So that's what Sayer said right there, but there's another link I have where it goes directly to the email. It's right next to
verify my
so
age,
this is from November 30th, 2018. And the reason this is important is because it is right after Julie K. Brown released the big Epstein investigation piece in the Miami Herald, which blew this case open. You know, that's what really put it on the map. And what you start to see in emails after that, some of which we've covered on episodes we've done in here, is you see a more desperate, concerned Epstein than you had in the past. You see a guy who feels like the walls are closing in on him a little bit. So this is right afterwards. He runs to Kathy Rumler. And let's go down a little bit, Deef. I want to read the first email Jeffrey Epstein wrote. There are typos in here and some code up. Sorry, right there. Yeah, perfect. There are typos in here and some coded translations, meaning like the HTML code or whatever it's called, change certain letters to like equal and stuff like that. But I'm going to read what he said. November 29, 2018 at 8:21 p.m. He writes to Kathy, I think quiet is best. And again, we don't have the email before this. So whatever was said before this, we don't have. But he goes, I think quiet is best, but I keep receiving phone calls from friends asking that I say something so that they use it to defend themselves. 1, and so now he's listing out like what they should be saying hypothetically. 1, fought all the way to the Department of the Attorney General. 2, media doesn't like it, but the charges were all prostitution related, money for sex at my home. He says his home, but it would be his like my home, like Jeffrey's home. They came to his house for $200. Acosta, referring to Alexander Acosta, who at the time was still the labor secretary under Trump. Acosta letter detailed a defense assault, not a cooperation. Interesting. And then number 4, 10 years ago, I made some very bad choices, now referring to himself in the first person. I received, and then in all caps, a 30-month sentence. He follows that up with another email to Kathy 3 minutes later where he says, served the same as anyone else. 13 months incarcerated is the same for all persons sentenced to 18 months. No special shortening. Second chances, clean record. I guess, you know, him quickly typing out the idea that now he's gotten a second chance and he's had a clean record since then. To which Kathy Rumler replies, helping out her dear friend Jeffrey here. And again, she's no longer in the Obama White House at this point. This is after Obama's gone from the White House, but this is a woman who I believe was already the chief counsel of Goldman Sachs at this point. We can check that, Deef. But, you know, someone who is still very much in the power structures of the world. And she goes, the problem is always the same. 94 girls were teenagers. That's what she starts the email with. Complete admission of knowing out front that like this guy was accused by, at least in this case, what she's saying, 94 teenagers. Doesn't matter, she says, that they were prostitutes. It's the age. And now several have gone on record and camera. I understand the instinct of your friends, but nothing short of a full and complete mea culpa is worth doing, and legally you can't do that, at least not now. So much going on there. So first of all, she's telling him, like in an attorney capacity, you can't be opening your mouth and saying anything here because it could incriminate yourself and open yourself to other new cases, civil cases, potentially criminal cases that haven't been prosecuted or maybe weren't a part of that sweetheart deal at this point. And secondly, she's saying, I'm well aware that you were accused by all these underage girls. I don't care. They were prostitutes. That's how she puts it. Her words, not mine. She literally says the awareness of all the teenagers that he's sleeping with, which are underage children. And by the way, some of them weren't even teenagers. Some of them were fucking 12.
Jeez.
Okay? Like, Deef, this is the other thing. I will literally see like a 12-year-old girl now, and I get this feeling of like, oh my God, like that is that is something that Jeffrey Epstein was attracted to.
Yeah.
And then you think even worse when you look at the Epstein files and you see some of these redacted photos where he's sitting with fucking children.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking 6-year-old children. And you hope to God that maybe that wasn't one, but it's like,
yeah, it's disgusting.
It's just, it's disgusting. And Kathy Rumler is demonstrating now multiple times in these email threads a complete awareness of her darling, her words, not mine, friend Jeffrey and his predilections towards pedophilia. Not towards pedophilia, of pedophilia. That's what he does. That's what he is. And yet, even after something like this, she's right there right away to help him.
That's not good. I looked up to when she served as chief legal officer in general counsel. It wasn't until 2021. 2021.
Okay.
It was she joined in 2020, but 2021 to 2026.
Got it. So that's when she went to Goldman.
Yeah, she went in 2020. Yeah.
So after the Obama administration from 2016 to 21, do we know where she was?
Let's see.
She probably became a lobbyist or something. I can't remember. I know I've looked at that before, but I can't remember. And then, oh my God, this next one.
She was a partner at Latham and Watkins.
Yeah, huge law firm. Huge law firm. Okay. This next one, Deef, right here. Mm-hmm. The Epstein safe. Mm-hmm. So Business Insider put out this story. We Mike Benzed it, archive.is, so we get access to it. The title is Diamonds and Hard Drives from Jeffrey Epstein's Safe Went Missing for 5 days. Now we know where they went.
That photo, man.
Oh yeah.
That's a sinister one, you know.
I hadn't seen that.
He just took out the garbage.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, "Hey, turn that off."
Oof. All right, so the FBI left behind, I'm going to have some color commentary on this, but I want to give you guys the details right here, because essentially what this is going to be is that
I haven't seen
there was a safe that they opened up when they had their warrant to go in there the first time, but they didn't have a warrant for the safe, so they opened up the whole safe, they left everything on the floor, and then came back with a warrant 5 days later, and poof, it was gone. Huh. Amazing. Just completely gone. But the FBI left behind hard drives and diamonds from Jeffrey Epstein's safe when they raided his house. Epstein's accountant. Remember our friend Richard Kahn? We were talking about last week, Deef? Yeah, he's about to make another guest appearance on the show.
Wow.
Against his will. Happy to give him the credits here because he's a liar. But Epstein's accountant, who gave them to the FBI 5 days later, told lawmakers how he got them. Another deposition sheds light on hard drives that went missing from Epstein's Florida home.
Wow.
When FBI agents raided Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan mansion upon his July 2019 arrest, they used a chainsaw to open a metal safe. Inside, they found a pipe. And this is just what's reported as having been found, by the way. Okay, so it could be stuff missing from here, and I suspect there are. How many cups of coffee or energy drinks do you need per day to stop from crashing? Or even to stop from feeling nicotine withdrawal? I may not be a nicotine guy, but from an energy perspective, I get it. That's why I started using Ultra pouches, and they've been a complete game changer for my energy and focus levels. First off, these pouches are completely nicotine-free and caffeine-free, which I'm sure has you thinking right now, if they don't have nicotine or caffeine, what the hell's in them? Great question. The answer is fentanyl. Just kidding. Ultra partnered with the leading neuroscientists to design these pouches. They use clinically proven nootropics and adaptogens to deliver immediate focus and smooth energy that lasts 1 to 2 hours. More specifically, they use Infinity PX, a cleaner, smoother energy boost than caffeine, L-theanine, alpha GPC, and vitamins B6 and B12. These are truly clean, plant-powered pouches designed to sharpen your mind and lift your energy, all without caffeine, nicotine, or crash. While I can't speak to nicotine, it is a different feeling for sure than caffeine. Caffeine gives you this energy, and when you drink a lot of it, obviously, like, it's a jolt and everything. With the pouches, it's more smooth, and you are a little bit more locked in. And also, it's worth noting that Ultra pouches have a shorter half-life than caffeine, so they're not going to disrupt your sleep if you have them in the afternoon. And we're talking about a brand here that is trusted by many people around the world, including top athletes, entrepreneurs, and engineers alike. Right now, you can get 15% off your whole order at takeultra.com. That link is in my description below when you use promo code Julian at checkout. That's takeultra.com, promo code Julian for 15% off your order. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them I sent you. Inside, they found a pile of loose diamonds, cash, passports with the disgraced financier's photo under different names, because, you know, everyone has that. Again, Deef, you got at least 27 passports. We were taking inventory of that the other day.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
again,
you're
Darnell
Guatemalan in like 4 of them.
Deef, yeah.
Yeah. How's your Espanol these days?
Bueno.
Okay. All right. Good. That's just, make sure you have that in order. You never know. When you're going through Ciudad de Mexico.
Yeah. I'll say, Por qué Espanol?
How you doing? All right. So because the agents didn't have a warrant to seize the safe's contents, they left them in the middle of the floor with the hard drives and binders piled on top. Agent Kelly McGuire testified at the criminal trial of Epstein's co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. So this was also public testimony where they admitted this, and this just kind of went right under the rug. Because again, there's no cameras in federal court.
And Kahn, what a lying motherfucker, too.
Oh. Lying doesn't even begin to describe it.
But you know what I mean? Like, if this is public... Was his knowledge of this public through this?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
bro.
so now it's uncovered, but like that's what I mean. The balls,
dude,
on Darren Indyke, personal attorney, and Richard Kahn, personal accountant to Jeffrey Epstein, to go into these depositions and say the things they did in recent weeks, which again. We covered it last week, but it went under the radar because everyone's focused on the war right now. The balls of them to go on record with Congress and provably lie over and over and over again is insane. Or here's the Deef. Or the other option of them telling the truth and what would happen to them punishment-wise, maybe below the...
Well, I jumped ahead of you. Read that last paragraph because I was like, "Oh shit!
Oh, it's coming. It's coming." But what I'm saying is, maybe they're so worried about certain people killing them, or killing their families, or disappearing things and stuff like that, that they're like, you know what? I'll perjure myself for Congress, and if I go to fucking away for 5 years, at least there's not gonna be a problem with my family. That's I'm pure spec.
Yeah, it's pure spec. Pure spec.
But. I don't know, 1 + 1 usually equals 2 in my book. 5 days later, when the FBI returned to the mansion with a new warrant in hand, the safe's contents were gone. Later that day, the items were handed over to the FBI in the form of 2 suitcases, because that's what you hand over this stuff in, by Richard Kahn, Epstein's longtime accountant.
Damn.
The episode has fueled speculation among watchers of the Epstein story amid broader concerns about cover-ups and undue influence in the case. Oh, I wonder why. Why Kahn took the safe's contents and what he did with them has been a mystery until now. In his March 11th testimony before the House Oversight Committee, Kahn said that the safe's contents passed through 3 different people before coming into the FBI's possession. Let's keep scrolling. In a deposition made public Tuesday, Kahn said he was informed of the raid by Merwin Dela Cruz, the manager of Epstein's Upper East Side mansion, who said that he packed the safe's contents into 2 suitcases and left them with Kahn's doorman in Manhattan. When the FBI broke into Epstein's home, they broke down his door so his door could not lock and the alarm could not set properly, Kahn told the committee. When Merwin, the house manager, was at the house, he realized these items were not safe to be left alone because, I'm sure he was going to take very good care of them, comparatively speaking. Kahn, who wasn't in New York City at the time of the raid, said he took possession of the items 3 or 4 days later. He testified that he brought the 2 bags into his apartment and didn't look inside them. You know, just incredible discipline. He's got a star client in fucking prison in an international story for sex crimes. And now he has 2 suitcases that contain potentially all this data that can incriminate him. And he wasn't curious in the least to so much as unzip it and take a look. No one would ever know. Richard, no one would ever know. You could have looked.
Could squeeze a little something out of him too. Bump that rate.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I saw it was in the suitcase. 35%.
This is a guy who had some control of the estate. You think he couldn't?
Come on, biz.
I mean, biz, Richie, biz, baby. Come on. So, I never touched them. I never opened them, and I left them in my dining room. I wonder if he had like kids, like playing fucking Hot Wheels in there. I don't know.
Yeah, you can see the shot of the camera slowly pushing in. And it's just like suitcases on a spare chair, and the kids are running past it, and like a birthday cake gets lifted.
And it's the hard drives with the secrets of the world.
Literally,
You know, like
just in a dining room in New York.
Yeah, and reminder at the same time, hard drives and things that were allegedly recovered by people at NYPD were so bad that guys they're literally off themselves as a result of having access to it.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's dark. But Richard had incredible discipline. And again, this is the same guy who in his testimony said he knew nothing of the crimes. He was just an accountant. And he was horrified by everything that happened. Yet he's so known and trusted that the fucking house manager, the first person he thinks to give the secretive items to,
the doorman,
are fucking not only Richard Kahn, but his doorman.
Yeah.
He entrusted Richard's doorman.
I kind of get that.
The
doorman, like they hold it down,
They
especially in those nice buildings,
bro.
But still, crazy.
Huge shout out to the doormen in New York City, because I'll bet the doorman really didn't know what was going on here. By the way, he's not read in on that kind of stuff. I'm gonna defend.
No, you just gotta shut your mouth, open the door.
But Richard lives in his building. Oh, the nice accountant. This man, he walks a dog with his kids. He's so nice. It's my job to protect him, and he held it down.
Doorman has a made-up story that he's related to James Kahn, so he's like, I gotta take extra care of him. I'm a huge fan of his brother.
That's right, 100%. So they don't even spell it the same. Doesn't matter. We don't need our doormen to spell. We need them to be able to hold on to shit for safekeeping. But seriously, Deef, that's some of the unsung heroes in New York.
Yeah,
are doormen,
and they're one of those things that's not getting phased out by AI.
No, I would doormen or dudes. I fuck with doormen.
Me too.
I will defend those guys.
I almost did that as like a little gig at one point when I need a doorman. When I need to work. Yeah,
that was when you were still Darnell.
No, this was I mean, I would have been very clean as a doorman. Darnell pulling up, I would have done like the Spice Adams, like hit the kick before I walk.
Yeah.
But no, I almost did that as a job at one point. Well, that's a story for another podcast.
Yeah, we're going to have to really dig into that. You would have been good at it.
I got very close. And then I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah. There's no one who holds more secrets in his soul than Deef. You know, I really don't know anything about him. I know the Darnell piece. That's about it.
Yeah. That's it. It's for the memoir.
Yeah. Now you're scaring me.
You know where I was born?
Give me that
Do you know where I was born, Julian?
I don't want to know.
I'm just kidding.
And you know what? They don't want to know either.
I'm just kidding.
Everyone's confused as to your origin story.
No, I'm one of those guys who has funny stories where I'm like, yeah, dude, I was almost a doorman.
Yeah.
Or like, oh yeah. And they're just like, how the fuck did that happen?
No, it is just a bit, because in all honesty, like Deef is another like Forrest Gump type person.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
He ended up at weird times and interesting places around interesting things, or like 2 degrees of separation from interesting people, both good and bad.
Yeah.
In strange jobs.
Yeah.
You also had some very good, what's the term I'm looking for? Again, I'm a little slow today. Forgive me. But
it's all right.
You had some very good early calls of like, yeah, not for me.
Yeah,
some things.
Definitely.
Where very good hot takes that later looked scalding hot. for sure. So I got to give you a credit. Like, basically, if there's some shady shit going on, have this guy go take a look at it. Like, if you suspect there is, and he'll be able to tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of how
I appreciate that. I take pride in that. I'm a detective deep down.
Good. All right, let's keep going on this because this is just fucking wild. So, reached by Business Insider, Dela Cruz declined to comment. Danielle Ruzmana, an attorney representing Kahn, the accountant, declined to comment beyond Kahn's testimony. At Maxwell's trial, McGuire testified that the contents of the suitcases, quote, appeared to be all of the items that had been previously located in the case. Appeared to be. Also, a hard drive could appear to be the same hard drive, but you don't have fucking Jedi mind reading to know what the files were on that if you didn't look at it.
I don't want to take you on a tangent, but I have one question.
Sure.
Is because they didn't have a warrant for the safe, is this not like tampering of evidence?
Oh, of course. I mean, again, maybe our lawyer friends are way better suited. They're definitely way better suited to answer some context on this in the comments and see if we can take a look at that. But this is the first thing I was thinking.
I was just thinking if my house got raided and like I did something like this, in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm fucked. This is evidence. I just took evidence out of that. You know? So I'm just very confused there.
And I think that's the part I was going to is like, oh, is there attorney-client privilege or whatever? But my question is, once the house is raided and the house had a warrant on it, right? And it's an active crime scene. Okay, they didn't have it. Here's the legal question. They didn't have a warrant for that specific case, for that specific safe, which also was confusing to me because I'm like, if you have a warrant for the house, isn't that supposed to include?
I guess they treat it like a trunk.
I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Again, help us in the comments, lawyer friends. But if they know that they don't have a warrant for it, they had a warrant for the rest of the place, it's an active crime scene, and they leave things there to be continued based on forthcoming court orders to be able to legally look through things, constitutionally speaking. Are you, as someone within the network of the people associated with said house, meaning an Epstein, someone who's the target of the criminal investigation, are you legally allowed to try to clean that up? But Deef, here's the thing. It was not the first time they did this. Surprise, surprise. If you scroll down a little more, let's go back to 2008. They already knew the plays because they had written the playbook years and years and years before. The missing Palm Beach hard drives. We've heard about these before, actually. This one, some of this is not new. This has been discussed by, I believe if it's been a while, but I think it's some of the, I forget the guy's name, but the guy who's the sheriff in Palm Beach County right there who investigated the original case before it was like ripped away from him and all that. I think he's discussed this before and other people who were associated with that investigation. But the testimony released by the committee on Tuesday also sheds light on the fate of computers removed from Epstein's Palm Beach, Florida house shortly before police officers executed a search warrant there in 2005 during a local investigation into his interactions with underage girls. Florida law enforcement officials never found the computers, conveniently. The investigation culminated in a plea deal that allowed him, we know that whole thing. Okay, let's go down. Scroll down, Deef.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And then in a March 19th deposition with the House Oversight Committee, Darren Indyke, Epstein's longtime personal attorney, said he learned after Epstein's 2008 conviction. So he learned after the conviction, over 3 years later. Again, this is his personal attorney who didn't even know these details, allegedly. He said he learned after that conviction that the hard drives were in the possession of Riley Corrali, a private investigations firm. In an October 2005 memo released by the Justice Department as part of the Epstein Files, firm co-owner William Riley told one of Epstein's lawyers that an employee had retrieved computers from Epstein's home among other items of, quote, potential evidentiary value, unquote. Deef, do you remember when we covered 4 or 5 weeks ago the storage units around the U.S.?
Yeah.
That the FBI had never even searched? That were holding a lot of shit? I wonder if some of it, like it was in their possession, it says right here, I wonder if at some point, some of it or all of it ended up in those units.
Wow.
And here's the other thing. Again, I don't have any experience with this world. Maybe people in the comments can help here. Of course, if you are a private investigator, I imagine it falls under the same oaths as like financial advisor, doctor, stuff like that. Like you have client privilege and you don't reveal things. Where's the line on that though? because there's a line with a priest. Yeah. If a priest hears someone's confession and someone says that they're going to go kill someone, I believe the priest is allowed to break that confession, and that's like literally religious.
Same with doctors, same with anybody, yeah.
So if you are Riley, what was the name of the Riley Corrali?
Yeah,
the private investigations firm.
Yeah,
and you get possession of this potential evidentiary stuff, and it has on it what we know it fucking had on it. I mean, we can pure spec here, but I mean, it's. I think at this point it's pretty clear. It's going to have awful ritualistic, pedophilic crimes. To what extent, I don't know, but probably the worst shit. It's going to have insane blackmail of powerful people, including people, of course, who are engaged in some of these things, not just Epstein himself. It's going to have this. If that comes out that was on that, is there a way that Riley Corrali can be held liable for withholding that, even if they had tried to hide behind the attorney-client, or not attorney-client, but the fucking client privilege?
The whole thing, yeah, I mean, the whole thing's shady. Also, why did a private investigation firm have it? Who hired a private investigator?
Jeffrey. Yeah. He would have hired him there. He would have hired him there for sure. Now, actually, here's a second pure spec level. Were they a whipping boy private investigation firm? Meaning, Jeffrey Epstein has his own private investigators like, I don't know, say Black Cube. And Black Cube then has a bullpen, if you will, of little tentacle, smaller private investigations firms that they can give jobs to remove themselves one layer from it. Because Black Cube, for people who are unaware, is a world famous, infamous, however you want to say it, private investigations firm founded by former, big air quotes, members of Shin Bet and Mossad. And they have done private investigations for people, including Harvey Weinstein and many other, not great people, of course. But pure spec, just saying. Feel like maybe that might have been in play here.
Yeah, might have been.
Right?
Might have been.
Right? But when you look at a guy like Richard Kahn having just testified all this stuff, he said... One of the funniest things he said, it's not funny, but it's like kind of sinister, but he's like, I made the wrong decision in staying with Epstein, as if he's like just figured this all out now, not like he was carrying out fucking evidence in suitcases that was taken from his house after he was arrested for the worst sex crimes known to men. He also said he could not have operated, Epstein could not have operated without him. Or, I'm sorry, the House Oversight Democrats revealed after doing the deposition that their takeaway was that Epstein could not have operated without Richard Kahn because he was effectively moving around the money. And it sounds like in accordance with also Darren Indyke from a legal perspective as a personal attorney. But basically they were saying the trafficking ring had the money man. This is the money man. And then he also admitted under oath, same guy who's like, I knew nothing about the crimes or, the Jeffrey Epstein's sick predilections or anything like that. He just says, here's $10. What do I got to do with it? Of course, to remain within IRS standards. Jeffrey Epstein was definitely trying to follow the law, right?
I mean, that's a real law-abiding guy. That's the best way to do it now.
Yeah. Talk to the accountant, be like, Richard, I want to make sure as a patriotic American, we're following every single thing correctly according to the IRS standards, constitutional standards, whatever you want to say, of the American government, because I just love it so much.
Yeah, it's like how like they always put out the IRS every year. If you're a drug dealer or this or that, like make sure you file properly. It's like, hey, if you're a human trafficker, working with some of our constituents in the office, please make sure to file within the guidelines.
Because human traffickers make really good money.
Yes.
And we have a lot of missiles and bombs that we have to drop in unnecessary wars on a lot of brown people in the Middle East. And so in order to do that, money is green. And wherever it comes from, as an Uncle Sam patriotic American, it is important that we extract, speaking on behalf of the government here, the correct taxable payments from even the not law-abiding citizens.
There's such a dark metaphor to that.
Please do share.
Like each well, even if it's not children, just each person that's being assaulted in this manner is being dropped back down to earth in the form of a bomb. Like each bomb is one of those cases, you know? And like their end is an explosion that's hurting someone else. Just violence begetting violence, you know, all that shit. Pretty crazy.
That's wild. I never thought of it that way. I don't know why.
I just thought of it right now.
No, that's darkly genius. Like on your part to think of it, not doing it.
No, totally.
But like, you can't even get justice for these victims, many of whom are probably dead.
Right.
Because the awful things that happen to them, children. But then the cover-up is one thing.
Yeah.
The people being in power to make these decisions who shouldn't be able to do it because they're a part of it is another layer. And then the fact that money like this made its way to the government, not to give restitution to victims or anything like that. Not that money ever.
Or even to just help like poor people.
Anything.
You know, anything productive and benevolent.
Or productive. Yep. Instead, you could follow that money ledger on a balance sheet and find its way into.
Yep. It's literally a body for a cartridge, like a body for a shell.
Oh, that's awful.
It's fucked up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Richard Kahn and Darren Indike face charges. Because these are the two most obvious people. Well, that's actually maybe a stretch. But like among the most obvious people that now just at a base level of clearly perjuring themselves should be in shackles.
Yeah.
And they're not. Clock's ticking. They're not. I have a ton of other stuff on Epstein here, Deef. Some of it we won't get to. Some of it we're going to do next week.
Okay.
I didn't even tell you about some of these things I was looking at, but there's just a lot of it that's also like kind of in the news as well. But one thing that also went totally under the radar that I held off from last week and I do not want to hold off this week is exactly what you just pulled up, Deef. Catherine Herridge's report over at... Catherine's at CBS now, right?
I can confirm that.
Am I making that up? Can we confirm that? Catherine Herridge has always been a really solid investigative reporter who tries to do things, as far as I can tell, like really down the middle. You know, just go get the facts. She's been around a long time. So someone who's been from the mainstream world who I think is pretty damn good. But she went through emails and also then brought in an intelligence analyst to like break it down with her.
She left CBS in 2024, and now she has a weekly series that's like under the LA Times media group.
Okay. All right. So she was at CBS. Now she's not. But basically, there are emails that seem to show, and I would agree. I think there's links to the emails down there as well. Deef, I don't know. It's somewhere in there, but we can find them. Just take a look on Twitter. I should have had that for you, but I'll explain the context before we get there. But basically what it shows is Jeffrey Epstein, I forget who he was talking with directly, but he is almost like giving legal advice on how to put the 9/11 victims' case against the Saudi government through court, and acting as like a go-between between the people trying to set that up in the U.S., which is like darkly like the victims themselves. Like Jeffrey Epstein's acting as like a backstabbing go-between between them and the Saudi government. Yeah, here we go. Where he's advising on how to make sure this can gets kicked down the road and is then legally put into a position to where you can't get a result or an admission or something like that for at least 10 years or something. So he writes on No, that's the ISIS one. That's not it. Type in Herridge 9/11 emails. The ISIS one is a weird one. I can give a quick preview on that while Deef's looking that up right now. Like, there's been this email floating around for weeks and weeks and weeks now that I haven't talked about yet because I still can't wrap my head around it. But yeah, I'll come to that. So people trying to say like Jeffrey Epstein admitting in an email that he had direct, I don't know, like some form of direct contacts to ISIS and groups like that, Al-Qaeda, I believe, as well, and that therefore it was proof that it was literally manufactured by guys like him and governments like the Israel and the U.S. I still don't see that in that email as pure proof. You know what? Let's pull it, since I'm talking about it, let's get that done right now. Let's you already had that up. So this is the email chain in question. I'm gonna read you exactly what is said so that you guys have full context. But the first email is from Monday, September 5th, 2016. So keep in mind, this is a couple days before or is it a few weeks? I think it's a couple weeks before the Donald Trump grab him by the pussy tape drop, the Access Hollywood tape and all that. But this is like peak of Trump versus Hillary leading into the 2016 election. He's having this discussion with Tom Pritzker. So Tom Pritzker writes on September 5th, 2016. Can we blow this up, Deef? That's really small.
Yeah. Let me just pull it to my desktop.
Yeah, because Pritzker's also demonstrating some knowledge there. And we've talked about Tom, and who's now resigned from all his positions. All right, so scroll down. Perfect. Okay, so he says, yes, there is a tradecraft name for this administration's approach, referring to Obama administration. Clusterfuck. When China began building bases in South China Seas, we ran freedom of navigation cruises. This is a technical process that describes which of the ship's systems are on and which systems are off. Obama orders it done. Pentagon sends over the details, and Susan Rice views the systems on/off not as a protocol, but as a menu of options. She overrules the Pentagon and orders which system she wants on and off. In effect, White House diluted challenge for which freedom of navigation cruises were designed. He had a foreign policy strategy that was articulated at Cairo. It's a failed strategy, and he failed to change when the failure was clear. Would like to think that Ehud, referring to Ehud Barak, thought when he first heard at Cairo. Would like to think what Ehud thought when he first heard this at Cairo. Good example was complete withdrawal from Iraq, military, diplomatic, and economic, followed by passive support for Maliki, who then slaughtered Sunnis and made ISIS a rational alternative. Is there anything below there?
No.
Okay, so that's that. Jeffrey Epstein responds, and this is why it set off people's alarm bells. He responds, Nusra, referring to al-Nusra Front, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Jabba, Hamas, the leaders all prefer Donald, meaning referring to Donald Trump. Wild. And then Pritzker immediately responds, they know Hillary. Hillary likes blowing people up. Epstein comes back and says, Turkey gives Nusra a heads up on Iraqi recruits, which is now implicating Erdogan in that on, playing on different sides of this issue vis-a-vis places like Syria and Iraq. Slaughter. Russia gives Erdogan heads up on a coup, which was referring to the failed 2016 Turkey coup. U.S. gives a pass on ISIS to Palmyra. Assad has no support, so will stay. Nuclear base in Turkey, Soviet defense in Iran, Saudi and Yemen, Egypt about to lose all financial support. Jordan has 1 million refugees, as does Lebanon. Also, my guy, Thorbjørn Jagland, who I think is the Norwegian guy, Secretary General Council of Europe, will be here this weekend as well. Pritzker responds, yes, till Thursday. He responds, in New York tomorrow through Friday, but morning, dinner, Hyatt strategic retreat. Are you in New York? And Epstein says yes till Thursday. And that's the end of it. So people were putting this around on Twitter with written in text captions saying, proof that Epstein knows who set up ISIS and was a part of doing it. Unless I am really missing something there, I don't see the proof of that yet. I'm not saying that this isn't something that happened. I'm saying if that's the email we're going off of, there's nothing there that in a court of law is going to even come close to having a jury need to deliberate, in my opinion. What Jeffrey Epstein does seem to be demonstrating is an intensive understanding of odd underground, if you will, strategic alliances between recognized and unrecognized, referring to like terrorist groups alike throughout the Middle East, and how they kind of all tie together in weird ways, which was following up a full explanation of Tom Pritzker going through why he believes Obama's strategy was completely failed in the Middle East. It's fascinating in the sense that we are seeing what kind of geopolitical chops or inside baseball or whatever you want to say Jeffrey Epstein seemed to have access to or have himself, but there's no like smoking gun there on any of that. So if you guys know something else in the comments that, you know, we're missing, or there's some other emails related to that specifically show like, yeah, this is how we set up ISIS, or this is how we set up this or that, where Epstein's talking about that, or people around him are talking about that, please direct us to him. But that one on its own, I don't see as a thing. Now, do we have the Herridge emails related to 9/11?
I can't find them. The ones that you were mentioning on X.
We're going to pause real fast. I'm going to get them.
Okay.
We'll be right back. All right, we're back. I got it. So the email in question that I was trying to find as it relates to Catherine Herridge's report is from November 26, 2016. Deef will put it on the screen. I have it in front of me right here. And it's from Jeffrey Epstein to Rafat Al-Saba. And he says, my idea is to have both Kathy, referring to Kathy Rumler, former White House counsel, and Ken Starr, former legal counsel to the United States, who was involved in Bill Clinton's impeachment trial in the 90s, file an action asking for clarification whether JASTA is constitutionally permissible. It will tie up any litigation for 5 to 10 years. Great move. So without going too far into the nitty-gritty, like bar by bar, explanation by explanation to confuse people, when he's referring to JASTA and some of these other legal terminologies and legal rulings that are pertaining to what he's explaining, basically what he's doing here is advising on how to use the legal system to tie up claims on this Saudi v. or 9/11 victims v. Saudi royal family or Saudi government 9/11 lawsuits for years in court by advising them to file things that, like the families to file things that are going to do that, perhaps under the guise of them not realizing what that's going to do, which buys them more time to find other ways to try to avoid any deeper digging or try to get to a settlement or something like that, so that this doesn't cause a problem and bring down a whole potential house of cards. Remember, we are dealing with a guy, Jeffrey Epstein, who had a picture in his house of George W. Bush playing on the floor of the Oval Office like a child with paper airplanes and a couple fallen Jenga towers below him, or block towers, whatever they were. You know, and we are dealing with a guy who, among the 3 million files that are missing, that Pam Bondi, more on her in a second, is apparently never going to release, includes an entire tranche from 1999 to 2001 that is ridiculously redacted, which just happens to be the years leading up to and including 9/11, which was the most seminal event of my lifetime that caused this, really basically everything that's happened since in some way or another. And so now when you have him 15 years after that event advising, not as a lawyer, but using the legal system and referring to extremely powerful people that he say can help with this quote unquote, what I'm going to call inside job, it certainly lends even more questions about what we're missing from 1999 to 2001. I just thought this was an interesting report. Check out Catherine Herridge's full, like there's a 1-minute clip there, Deef, but there's a full like 20-minute sit down she does breaking this down. Very, very informative. Good stuff. Shout out to Catherine. But I said I was going to get to Pam Bondi, my favorite attorney general of all time. We've had some real gems in there. in my lifetime. Deef.
That's for sure.
Some awesome,
a lot of good Italians.
Yeah, it's just some awesome people. And then there was Fast and Furious Holder, all that. There's just a lot of great attorney generals. But Pam Bondi, who, is an enormous fan of the Dow and the stock market and making sure that that's all up, because that is the job of the attorney general. I was unaware of this, Steve, but the attorney general is supposed to make sure the stock market only goes up for everyone in America. And in doing that, report directly to the president to make sure that happens. That's just, you learn something new every day. And Pam Bondi did teach me that, so I appreciate it. But Pam Bondi apparently went into Trump's office the other day and begged like a dog to keep her job. And Trump was like, "No, you're fine." And so as we sit here recording on Friday night, there is no official replacement yet. I'm going to get to that in a second in the speculation there. But as the epitaph, if you will, on Pam Bondi, in her defense, she's not playing with a full deck. This is not, I don't know how the fuck she got through law school. I don't know if she blew somebody. I don't know. But clearly not playing with a full deck when you listen to this woman talk. The one part that I will always want to know, and we will probably never find out though, is how much responsibility she actually has for the cover-up. And I don't mean for this to sound like a defense of Pam Bondi. I mean, you heard what I think of her. I think she's a fucking moron. And good riddance. But I do wonder sometimes about the patsies that exist in high places like this, to where things that you want to do or things that you have the legal chops to be able to do or the case to make or the fucking constitutional authority and constitutional responsibility to make are not allowed to happen because of black hat type things behind the scenes that we can't see. I have to give that creak in the doorway to everyone, including people I don't like Pam Bondi. And I'm curious about that. But on the surface, from what we do know and what we can deal with, this is a woman who also is a woman, by the way, in a case where a bunch of girls were abused, which just kind of adds like a little extra awful taste in your mouth to that. But this is a woman who came out and was telling everyone, we're going to release the files. We're going to do it. I got it sitting on my desk. I got all these awful videos, this proof, whatever. And then boom, overnight was like, yeah, no, there was, first of all, we're not going to release the last 3 million files. That is directly against the law that was literally passed. She's legally not allowed to do that. So she may have to answer for that in court, and I won't feel bad for her when she does. But like, not only are we not going to do that, but by the way, he was not a spy. He wasn't really a trafficker. He didn't traffic to anyone. He was just a fucked up, deranged pedo. And some of the stuff I said that in the past that we had on him, we didn't really have. There was nothing there. It was like, it was the old, she's Italian. It was the old Italian, don't worry about it.
Yeah. She's about.
No. Don't worry about it.
She's about as powerful as cash. If I was a betting man.
Yeah, that's a low blow. But
no.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Either way, people like Pam Bondi and Kash Patel were, if they are just complete puppets who were not put in a position to do anything, which could be the case, they were awful front-facing figureheads to put up. Because these are people who struggle to have any type of likability or communicative confidence anytime they opened their mouth in these respective positions of Attorney General and Director of the FBI. Gosh, but listen, if I had to defend Bondi for a second, Cash is on a whole nother level. That guy, oof. But like Bondi was particularly cringe, and we wish her well, as Tim Dillon would say. We're moving on. But her replacement, believe it or not, could be worse. There are, at the time of this recording, 2 potential candidates. One of them is Lee Zeldin, former Republican House of Representatives congressman from New York, who, very conveniently, by the way, you just go to opensecrets.com. If you scroll down there, right, Deef, it is a guy from the Financial Services Committee, Foreign Affairs Committee. Keep that in mind for one second. But who were his top contributors in 2019, 2020? Go down. Oh, look at that. Top of the list. Only six-figure contributor. AIPAC. Right below that, Republican Jewish Coalition. You get the picture here. Probably places that are backing people that don't want to see nothing about nothing that could incriminate the Israeli government in any way, to say nothing of my own government here in America, who's incriminated in the Epstein Files significantly as well. Not a great look, if that's one of the guys that you're looking at bringing in. The second guy, though, was Bondi's deputy, Todd Blanche, who is currently right now the acting attorney general. He was named, or has he been named officially acting attorney general, or is that still reportedly? I don't even know. But we're going to have a few clips of Todd Blanche here because,
yes,
you know,
he is.
Why have me hang him when he can just hang himself? No pun intended when we're referring to the Epstein case. And of course, we don't mean that literally or anything like that. But this was Todd Blanche answering questions at a press conference on behalf of the DOJ in recent months. So these are all from recent months as it pertains to like the Epstein Files blowing up. But let's start with this particularly cringe clip. Deef, run it.
Thank you. You said this is the end of the Epstein, of your review of the Epstein Files.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, is the public going to learn the identities of the men who abused the girls with the information that you're releasing? And if not, why not? And then I have a quick follow-up.
I mean, you just baked in an assumption into your question that I have never said and I don't know to be true. Is the public going to learn about men that abuse these girls? Like, what does that mean? I mean, I don't understand what that means.
Well, I mean, they're
see the nodding?
Men who abused the young women through Epstein's,
Look, we said in July, and it remains as true today as it was in July. If we had information, we meaning the Department of Justice, about men who abused women, we would prosecute them, right? We talked about the work that we're doing. That's why I said that. I said this earlier. There's this built-in assumption that somehow there's this hidden tranche of information of men that we know about that we're covering up or that we're choosing not to prosecute. That is not the case. I don't know whether there are men out there that abuse these women.
I have no idea. All right, let's run the next one, Deef. That can't get worse, right?
I don't think so.
Wrong. This is with Jesse Waters. This one you got to turn up big time. It's low vol. I'll turn it up in the post edit as well. Good.
Who is Epstein spying for? Look, everything. I don't know that he was spying for anybody. Nobody's ever said that. No? You don't think he might have been a spy for a foreign country? I have no idea if he was a spy. All I know is that we don't have any evidence in the Epstein files that the FBI collected over 15 years that suggests that, Jesse. I don't know. I wasn't part of the original prosecution team. Neither was Attorney General Bondi. And I can tell you this. There's only one president that's held Mr. Epstein accountable, and that's Donald J. Trump. During his first administration, that was the administration that prosecuted him. And during this administration, it's the administration that's been totally transparent and released all the files. And no matter how much criticism people want to make about the Epstein files, that is indisputable. It's undisputable that nobody talked about the Epstein files for 4 years during Biden. 4 years.
That's right. I've heard
and
enough
so
of this
when
one.
President Trump
Let's get to the third one before I absolutely level this guy's entire foundation of life. I need one more to warm up. And then I have a special guest appearance from another friend as well. Let's get this one, though, running deep. So this is another recent clip where he's being asked about the Epstein survivors. And Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says,
we're working hard to make sure that we fix that, and I expect that will continue.
Will more documents be released?
We have released, there are a small number of documents, as I said on Friday, that we're waiting for a judge to say we're allowed to release because of a protective order. But this review is over. We've reviewed over 6 million pieces of paper, thousands of videos, tens of thousands of images, and which is what the statute required us to do. You know, it's interesting. Leadership on the Hill, Congressman Massey, Senator Schumer are quick to complain There is no way
let's just rip Massey.
they have spent any time looking at the materials we produce.
Oh, they've spent no time doing. I've heard
enough. We produced them on Friday.
Okay, one more before I go all the way in. I want to point out the quickest endorsement for Todd Blanche. Pam Bondi's body wasn't even cold yet, and Dan Bongino steps in from behind the mic and says,
"Oh God,
this guy sucks."
Number one is the DAG, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche. He is now acting. I have had nothing but great relationships with Todd. Everything we did with Todd, whether it was summer heat, restoring justice, enduring justice, CI cases, public corruption cases, I have had nothing but good dealings.
Number one.
I think Todd would be a great replacement. It's up to the president. He is ferociously loyal to the president. He defended the president. He left an extremely prestigious, well-paid position
just like
at a private law firm, knowing he was going to be targeted for the rest of his life by Democrat lunatics, and he did it anyway.
Hero.
Wow,
There's his former
hero. All right, get him off.
You gotta go.
Fuck you, Dan Bongino.
Wow.
All right.
He's so brave.
Here's one problem with Todd Blanche that without getting into the many problems in the litany of those clips right there, he is a far more confident, well-spoken Pam Bondi. He says that shit like he believes it. If you watch that first clip we did where he's at the press conference and he pretends to not know what it means about a guy potentially assaulting young women as it pertains to the Epstein Files, and the reporter looks at him like he has 10 heads and can't believe that he has to actually explain this to this guy. I mean, you heard the reporter like, well, I mean, and he starts explaining it. You see Tyler like, like he's nodding at him like, you're the slow one, not me. Like, incredible talent of gaslighting. Have to give him that right away. You want to talk about a company man? You want to talk about a political appointee? You want to talk about somehow taking a step backwards from a Pam Bondi, also with someone who's a more effective communicator of bullshit? That's what this guy's looking like. I remind you, somewhere along the way, we lost the identity of what an attorney general is within a cabinet of a presidency. The attorney general, I don't have the full definition up in front of me right now, but the broad legality of it is that the attorney general is supposed to operate independently. They don't operate independently of like being in the cabinet. They're in the cabinet. They're, I believe, a part of the people who have a vote within the cabinet to invoke something like the 25th Amendment and stuff like that. It's not like you're saying they're powerless within the cabinet. But when it comes to prosecuting people who break the law, or a better way of saying it, upholding the law, the rule of law in the United States as the top attorney in the fucking whole government, they're not supposed to take directions from the president. And yet, in my lifetime, goddamn near every attorney general, and definitely every attorney general for the last 2 decades, has done precisely that. Let me not just pick on Pam Bondi here or the potentially incoming Todd Blanche. All right? They've all done it. We've told the story a million times about John Ashcroft even, who was lying on what was damn near close to a deathbed in 2003 when Dick Cheney went down there and made him sign something while the guy's on a fucking ICU monitor. You know, and he might have actually not wanted to sign that, by the way. That was like, oh, and he didn't sign that one, I believe. So, like, he actually stood up, I guess, at the time. But, like, Eric Holder operated completely at the beck and call of the Obama administration. We got proof on that. Our friend John Kiriakou, who's been on the show many times, was someone who was on the fucking losing end of that one, provably, in emails. You know, and now it's just become publicly accepted that that's what it is. But you even saw Jesse Waters, chief propagandist for the Trump administration on Fox News, second to none. Most insane propaganda tweets for this Iran war of anyone that I've seen from the media not named Mark Levin. You know, like even he at the beginning of that one was like, really? And then, yeah, of course, he let him talk for like the next minute and just took it. But like, come on, people. Like, this is what I mean. And this is why it's not to just be a conspiracy theorist, which nowadays seems to be a fucking compliment, by the way. You know, to be like, yeah, you know, the timing of them starting an Iran war at the end of February, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting that we're doing this now. And we're going to talk about that in a minute in the latest updates, more disasters this week. And I hope to not be reporting on disasters, by the way, regardless of what I think of the war. I hope to be reporting on the war winding down one of these weeks, or things where fucking Americans aren't dying or being taken hostage and stuff like that. But, here we are still now 6 weeks into what was going to be at tops a 4-week war, and now it's another 2 to 3 weeks allegedly. It's never ending. We've seen this movie over and over again. Don't learn anything. But like the timing of doing that and the caricature that has been created of the whole operation. And I hate to say it like that either, because it's just so disrespectful to the men and women in service, the fact that a war could possibly be described that way, because it is not their fault. I've said that a million times. I will say that till I'm blue in the face. That needs to be reiterated over and over and over again. This is the fault of people in suits in Washington, D.C. and Tel Aviv, you know? But like, particularly Tel Aviv. It is impossible to not think that the timing is what it is, because it feels like guys like Sayer G on Twitter, to some extent, still Mario Nawfal, you know, putting out some reports on the Epstein file, but a lot less now because he covers the current events. And I think he tweeted about that, like, oh, R.I.P. Epstein Files, you know, because of what's going on. And there's other accounts like the Epstein, one of them's called like the Epstein File Search, which is a great account that's constantly tweeting on all these updates and things going on. So there's still people covering it and talking about it, but you see the volume over the past 6 weeks in particularly going through the floor on this as continued depositions and insane data keeps coming out. It continues going through the floor. Now, there's people who pointed out that on Google Trends in the weeks leading up to Iran, meaning before an attack happened, it was already falling off on search terms as it pertains to Epstein Files. But I could show you vidIQ and YouTube and the data that we look at back here, and it was still pretty fucking strong at the time. And I can see, by the way, based on the fact that people are still engaging heavily with these episodes where we are covering that as a part of it, and we've done a longer time this week so far because there was just so many fucking things there. You know, I can see people out there want it. But when the algorithm feeds all of us, which includes me and Deef, information, if we are not getting it put right in front of us, and then you don't work in a job like me and Deef, where our job is to go fucking look for shit. Like, that is what we get paid to do, to find that shit, to bring it to you guys, to judge for yourselves. If you are sitting there and you are paying your bills and putting food on your family's table, and you get to spend a little bit of time each day looking into things, you, through no fault of your own, are being fed what's in your algorithm, which means those are the things that are most searched or most in the news right now. So when things like Epstein fade away, until you get maybe my video or a few other people who are still posting about this on your feed on a random day in the week, you're not hearing about it. Not your fault. It's the fault of the system and what we've created, and the fact that this shit is so obviously done in front of us to move the public away from things that just aren't very good for the PR. So again, we're going to continue to cover that for sure, just as we have today. But let me cook on this Iran war, which is obviously, to take nothing away from it as a story, it's a critical story. It's just the genesis of it being created is my point. You know, the war that is particularly sinister potentially to me. But another week of pure chaos, another week of Joe Kent vindication. I talked about it last week. Joe Kent has been continually clear on this in every appearance and every tweet that he's put out, referring to the problem with the strategy of being able to wind these things down when you cannot put yourself in a position to restrain the Israelis. Once again, I talked about the Pakistani connection last week. We now saw it play out again with even more proof when, what was this guy's name again, Deef? I don't even remember how the fuck to pronounce it. They've killed so many of them. The Israelis just targeted the latest person that allegedly J.D. Vance in particularly was negotiating with, Kamal Karazi. Was that the one? Right. Yes, that was the one. So his home was struck on April 1st or 2nd. and it was struck by Israel. His wife was killed and he sustained serious injuries. Also, breaking news right before we went on air today, Wall Street Journal, owned by Rupert Murdoch, who also personally advised the president to bomb Iran before the war. No conflict of interest there, of course, by the way. But even the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Iran has rejected all U.S. proposals at this time for peace and is not meeting with the U.S. in Islamabad, Pakistan, to negotiate. And I remind you, because of course Deef, righteously so, said right away, well, you know, why would they when they're just getting killed? And I was like, well, this is actually the one place where maybe they couldn't get killed because they'd be sitting there with U.S. fucking diplomats, and Israel couldn't possibly hit that one, right? But even that they're saying no to. And this is while the United States continues and Israel continues to bomb the shit out of the country. And again, I can't even believe I have to spoon feed this every week just as like the, not to you guys, but to people who would try to pick apart what I'm saying, meaning like people that don't like me or people that have an opposite opinion on the war. The IRGC sucks. Iran's government sucks. It's been 47 years of hell for their people. I wish their people all the best, and I hope they get rid of that government at some point. It ain't that simple, though, because you are dealing with a regime that did not pose a threat to America in any type of major existential, by any stretch, way leading into this war. They had demonstrated that as a paper tiger over and over and over again, and the war was prosecuted because Israel wanted it. And by the way, over this past week, Israel said they're not going to commit any ground troops to a ground invasion of Iran. The war that they push for. The war that they continue to bomb the shit out of the country from the skies on against U.S. interests, including on some of the very types of things like energy infrastructure that the U.S. had said on March 23rd through Donald Trump that we didn't want to bomb over the next 5 and what eventually turned into an extra 10 days or something like that. Directly sticking a finger in the face to the United States government, who pays them, and say, nah, we're going to do it anyway, fam. And they're not going to commit troops, Israel, to the Iranian potential ground invasion here. And I say potential, and I really hope it's potential that is never foreseen, but we're sitting here, and by the time this comes out tomorrow, unfortunately, maybe it's already a reality. I hope it's not. But when you're talking about potential ground invasion and Israel saying they're not going to put troops there, it is because they are busy putting troops in South Lebanon, taking land. And they are doing, by their own admission, do we have the clip of Israel Katz, the defense minister? I talked last week about Finance Minister Smotrich talking about Israel having the land up to the Litani River in Lebanon. This week, it also came out that Israel has been advising the Christian and Druze, D-R-U-Z-E, communities in southern Lebanon that they can, who are minority groups there, that they can stay in their areas, but that they want them to advise the Israelis on any Shiite Muslims who are staying behind. What is different? Like, I want you to replace the Israeli government with the World War II Nazi government in your head right now. And then I want you to replace Shiite Muslim with Jews in your head in World War II. And I ask you, what's the difference here? Because Israel Katz, as you're going to see, we shouldn't even play this because it's in Hebrew and it translates the quotes. But if you can X out, Deef, just right there so we can see the caption and give you an idea. What he said is that the Israelis are going to occupy southern Lebanon and prevent 600,000 people from returning home. And he said that Israel will demolish the homes just like they did in Gaza. This is ethnic cleansing. Period. There's no, it is objectively ethnic cleansing. To my friends out there listening who may be, Zionists or support the existence of Israel and all that, that's a separate issue right now. When you look at this situation, regardless of where your allegiances are, the current government in place that was elected by a minority of the people in Israel, by the way, a minority of the people, many people there don't like it. The current government is taking actions that by definition are the very things that their own ethnicity has fallen victim to in very public, horrifying ways in the past. And our taxpayer dollars in America are not only technically supporting that through our financial aid to their military and arming of them, but they're doing that and then not even helping us in the fucking war that they want in Iran. Now let me add something else to the mix here. Former guest on the show, Erik Prince. You all know him, founder of Blackwater, former CIA knock, which he was outed illegally about that. That wasn't public information. Then Leon Panetta outed him. And that was a whole thing, whole separate story. That was back in episode 305. People could check that out. But Erik Prince, who is no fan of Iran, to be very clear, has the same opinion of Iran as I do, like their government. Erik Prince is talking about what a disaster this is. He talked about the fact that no invasion should have ever happened no attack should have happened in the first place here. But now Erik Prince, who, regardless of what you think of him, is one of the world's smartest military strategists there is. Like that's just a fact. I know people have a lot of different opinions on Erik, but like that is what it is. Erik Prince has been breaking down what a ground invasion looks like. And he said, referring to Karg Island, which is the island we've talked about that is strategically most important as it relates to oil, is the island that Trump has bombed all the military infrastructure on, but has kept the oil pipelines basically untouched to this point and has talked about invading. We're going to talk about that in a second. He officially started kind of inching towards that without saying it today as well. But Erik Prince said on Karg Island, your initial assault is going to be mighty thin. A mass drop of the 82nd Airborne, that's pretty sporty. On Iran, they are highly intelligent, highly skilled warfighting nation. It would not be the pushover you saw with the Iraqi army, which also, the vacuum we created there didn't end well. On FPV drones, he says Iran has implemented them down to squad level, the same drones destroying Israeli tanks in Lebanon right now. While this is all happening, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has fired 3 major generals in the Pentagon this week. One of them being the Army Chief of Staff. Why is his name getting away from me? Why do I do that? General Randy George. I should have had that right at the outset. But General Randy George was basically, I believe the terminology was he was asked to step down, to which he immediately complied. And 2 other generals were fired as well. Deef has this up right here. General David Hodney and Army Chief of Chaplains Major General William Green Jr., according to Reuters, have also been removed in the midst of a major war. Highly unconventional to remove 3 major league generals, including the fucking Army Chief of Staff, while you're in the midst of this. And the reports are, and again, there's some level of speculation here. Can't say there's been recorded conversations that can prove this, but the reports in the media are that these guys have been removed because they are arguing against the ground invasion in Iran. These are hardcore, hardened military generals who were not a part of the, I don't think you make the argument here like they were a part of the old woke general regime, as they were calling it. All those people Hegseth and Trump removed, got rid of. These are real deal dudes, real deal military strategists. I can't sit here and tell you I know their life stories. I know all their successes and stuff like that. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on all their individual accolades, but they are in high-level positions in the middle of a hot war, and in all likelihood, based on speculation of why this is happening, arguing against a ground invasion in Iran because it will be a massive, massive mistake that includes U.S. casualties. And by the way, Deef, before the ground invasion, we're off to a fucking great start. You see a plane got shot down today?
Yeah.
And thank God, allegedly the crew, the United States crew on the plane is alive. But there is a mass search underway as we speak. Hopefully this has come to a good conclusion as it relates to my country, America, tomorrow when this comes out. But I don't know. There is a search across the country at the behest of the IRGC for people to find these pilots who have fallen out of the sky. And there is a $60,000?
Yeah, $10 billion Taman, which is 60,000.
Yeah, roughly $60,000 to any citizen who locates the downed American pilots. Iran just turned off its entire just turned its entire civilian population of 93 million people into a search party, which is also, this is where I have to get to some spec because I am not on the ground in Iran and I don't fucking know. All right. And that needs to be said. Anyone who's talking to you from a comfortable studio in America that tells you they know the vibe of all the people on the ground is lying to you. I don't know. But on the tea leaves that you and I can see publicly, based on how this has transpired so far. Of course, the United States and Israel has done significant damage to infrastructure, military armaments, and stuff like that in Iran. And I believe some of that reporting as well. I've also seen videos of some of it. That's very clear. But like, it would appear, and I'm going to say it like that, it would appear that while I'm sure there are tens of millions of people in Iran who still to this day fucking hate the current government and would love to see them overturned, it would appear that the actions taken here have actually fomented a little bit of extra support for that regime that previously wasn't there. Again, a very, and I do believe this is pre-war, a very minority part of the population. It was reported in the area of 20% of the population supported the current government prior to this war. And that might have even been a high estimate. But what I'm saying is that reading the tea leaves, it would appear it might be more than that now. Doesn't mean it's 50%. Not saying that. But like, if anything, it has had a backward effect. And the confidence of this government, who has a bunch of their leadership getting picked off like fucking sitting ducks one by one to say fuck you to the United States proposals and keep this thing going, tells me that they feel like they can stand up to, I don't know, a 50,000 soldier ground invasion by the U.S. And maybe, and by the way, now I'm really getting into spec. Huge asterisk ahead of this.
Pure spec.
Maybe they don't even care about if in said ground invasion there was actually some success of United States forces extracting anything related to any type of uranium they may be working on with a nuclear bomb. Maybe they've even decided they don't care about that. It's about like, yo, we can actually use this moment to get more support within our country to be able to stay in power after this, and that's better than anything. Who cares about the nuke? Maybe. I don't know. But like this whole, oh, we're going to go in there, we're going to mop the floor. Remember Christopher Moltisanti when we were invading Iraq? We're going to go in there and we're going to mop the floor.
Yeah.
With the Iraqis and all that. It feels like that's what the U.S. has been saying again.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened. And also, this started under the guise, Deef, and I'm going to say it like that, under the guise of, we're here to liberate the great people of Iran. Which you'd like to think that's what they were doing it for, of course. Cynically, you're like, no fucking way. Yeah. That was day one, and now on day 34 or 35, whatever it is, we've reached a point where it's now, oh, what was that tweet Trump put out today with like the watching something new explode? I don't remember what it was, where he's like, this is your choice, and now we're gonna send you guys to the Stone Age. Pete Hegseth is tweeting out back to the Stone Age, just like that. Yeah. And Trump's tweeting out that we're going to destroy everything and make it unlivable. So are you helping the people of Iran? That sounds like you're fucking them into perpetuity. You are collectively punishing them for their regime that you don't like. And I don't like it either, but like, what's your objective? That's another thing. What is the objective?
Yeah, no one can explain that.
Donald Trump came out the other night and gave one of the worst speeches I have ever seen him give. It was monotone, completely not entertaining in any way. There wasn't even a time where you had like a funny like Trump laugh, even if the whole thing was terrible. It was like the most boring 10 minutes ever. And someone on Twitter summarized it. One of the analysts summarized it perfectly. He was like, basically Trump just gave a chronological retelling of like the last 2 weeks worth of his Truth Social posts. He didn't give any new information. He didn't say anything about any real strategy. He talked in, we've been successful like never before, using all his regular
We're almost there. We're very close.
We're very close, very close. And, you know, now a few days later, there's potential for a ground invasion, which was already on the table when he was doing that speech, and people thought maybe he's going to say we're not doing that or we're doing it, which would have been worse, you know. But that is now hanging over us. And now I put the link in there, Deef. He put out a tweet about the Strait of Hormuz. It's under Strait of Hormuz right there. You'll see the one tweet. He put out a true social about it because that's been a whole thing. He tried to say in his speech the other night, we don't need the Strait of Hormuz. We have oil everywhere else doing whatever. But now he tweets out with a little more time, or True Social's out, with a little more time, we can easily open the Hormuz Strait, take the oil, and make a fortune. It would be a, quote, gusher, unquote, for the world. President Donald J. Trump. Well, I don't see the distance between that and the thinking of Dick Cheney. And like, yeah, oil's this incredibly important resources. I'm not arguing that. But like, at what cost? At what cost to go take it, dare I say, imperialistically for yourself, regardless of who you're taking it from? You are creating on a silver platter current and future propaganda. You are radicalizing an entire next 1, 2, 3 generations through the actions you're taking to do this. And you are now saying the quiet part out loud that, like, again, if you got a big dick, you don't have to tell people. And this is like the worst kind of way to be like, oh, I got a big dick. It's like saying, yeah, I can come take your fucking lunch and eat it too. What are you going to do about it? And maybe he's thinking, well, I'm saying it to a bad regime. Okay. But like, what about the people there who aren't the regime? Yeah, who a future economy would be based on that? You're basically saying, yeah, we're going to come in because you guys had that regime. We're going to come in and take all of it because we're the U.S. And we can just do that. You wonder why somebody wants to blow up buildings 10 years after things like this, or, you know, mass shootings happen, whatever it is. You wonder why. Those things are horrible, and I condemn them in every term, don't care who's doing them. But I've talked about it so many times before in other contexts, and now I'm just watching one play out live instead of talking about past things we've done. Now I'm watching things we're doing in the present. If those things, I want to say it like that, if those things were to happen in the future, and let's even make it personal, if it affected me personally and people I loved, or, you know, God forbid, were somehow victims of that, of course I'd be so fucking angry. I would want total revenge, all that stuff. But once I calmed down, even if I still wanted that, I'd be lying right now if I told you that I wouldn't be able to say, well, I know where it started. I know why that evil person became that evil person. Why they decided this was the way to go. I hate them for it. I hope they're burning in hell. But once upon a time, my president wanted a bunch of oil and dropped a fucking 5 trillion caliber bomb up the ass of his camel and his whole family. And he was the living one who decided, I want the revenge. I just don't think we learn our lessons in this country. And we'll continue going through the week by week, play by play of what's going on in the war. As I've said every week, and I will continue to say every week, I hope Monday all of my fears are wrong. Not Monday, fucking 1 second after I sign off right now. All my fears are wrong and peace happens and cooler heads prevail. But we continue to see escalation after escalation, and I really hope when this is coming out on Saturday, we're not seeing boots on the ground or any of that stuff. But we'll continue to cover it. We will continue to cover the Epstein Files. We feel like the last stop at the end of the road on the Boulevard of Broken Heroes here. Covering it, but like I said, there are some amazing people online who are not getting the attention they deserve, like a Sayer G, who are doing God's work, going into far greater detail than we are here. We're going to do our little part, and then also really shout out those guys. Also, again, shout out to the Epstein File search account on X. It's Epstein Search In, at Epstein Search In, just constantly throwing out data and pieces with government documents and everything to back it up. It's great shit. But we'll cover all that. And then this week, obviously, we were in Florida. We put out one episode. The second episode I had done was Sheriff Matt, which was awesome. And the second episode of the week, I moved to early next week because I didn't finish the thumbnails for that while we were on the road. So I'm going to finish that this weekend, and you'll be getting 4 episodes next week. So there will be, I believe it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we will have another J&D next Saturday
squared, baby,
as well. But thank you to everyone who's been watching this. Please continue to share this stuff with your friends. We will keep doing it, and I'm only just getting started around here. I said that over 6 years ago when I started this, and sitting here still working 7 days a week on it. All these years later, I love what I do. It's a real privilege to be able to do it, and thank you to all of you for making it possible. Give it a thought, give it back to me. Give it a thought, get back to me. Sorry, I can't hear myself. Peace. What's up, guys? Thanks so much for watching the video. If you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button before you leave, as well as leaving a like on the video. It's a huge, huge help. You can join my Patreon via the link in the description, and you can also join my clipping community via the Discord link down below. See you for the next episode.